Alright, so today I'm going to show you my method of winterizing this 2001 GTX, Seadoo GTX. It is the DI, which has a few more hoses involved, so what works for this will work for the carb models and probably your older two-strokes, which have less hoses, go in places. So really in the early two-strokes, pre-four-stroke, the DI I think is the most involved as far as your winterizing. Okay, so as far as supplies, obviously you're going to need your gallon of antifreeze. Actually, a gallon is probably enough to do two of these. I've got two DIs sitting right here, and you want to get a quart bottle, like a squeeze bottle. This is an old, like a gear oil bottle, and you want to have the pointy cap on it, and get a pretty decent 1/4 inch size hole in it. And you want a piece of tubing. I think this is like 3/8. Tie-on tubing works well, and just some basic hand tools. You're gonna really, the only thing you need to do here mechanically is remove some clamps and pull some hoses off, and then reattach those. The other thing is we're going to pinch off. This is just like a straight small vice grip. You need something like this, or the official hose pinchers that you see in the Seadoo manual. I had a couple of those, but I can't find them now. So something like this, or some other clamp to pinch off some hoses. Alright, so I'm going to take the seat bracket out because it makes it easier. You don't have to do that, but it is easier. Alright, so basically I just want to show you what we're after here, because if you think about how the water is supplied and it leaves the ski, that's the best thing to understand here. So this dark heavy tube is your inlet from the pump, and it comes in here from the pump and just circles around here, goes to this T, and then this clear tubing goes to the injection regulator that feeds the exhaust and the water box. Now I already have that disconnected, and then if you follow this supply line to another T, and this line feeds the crankcase water jacket up in the front of the ski, goes down around out of view. It actually feeds the mag case water jacket and then the bottom crankcase jacket, and that exits the bottom of the ski here, right here. And there's actually a quick disconnect here, which is intended to be able to drain the that line, but it just drains out the back of the ski with the other drains, so we're not even going to bother disconnecting that. But when we're going to force the antifreeze in here, I'm going to show you that, and we're going to look for antifreeze trickling through these lines, and that's going to tell us that it's made it the whole way through and it's pushing water out. This one here is a drain line, and that is the drain from the compressor on the DI. So when we feed antifreeze into the compressor, which is this other line here, goes into the compressor. When we feed it in there, we're going to look for water coming out there. Now back to the main supply, which is the big heavy dark hose. You can't see that, but this goes right into the head, and that's your main supply to cool your engine and your cylinders. That's where we're going to start. And the outlet from that line is right here. This is your main cylinder drain. We're going to look for flow there, and what we're going to have is at the back of the ski, we're going to have antifreeze coming out. And right now there really isn't anything here and I'll show you how that's going to collect here. If you're worried about it, you could put a catch pan down there. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is disconnect this hose from the injection regulator here, which I've done, and we're going to use this to force antifreeze into the main coolant inlet hose, that dark large hose. But what we're going to do is we're going to pinch the hose here so it just doesn't run back to the pump and run out, and that would do no good. So we're going to pinch it here, and because we want it to fill the cylinder head and block, we're going to pinch this hose at this T, and we're going to get that afterwards. Alright, so I have that hose and the supply hose pinched off, and I'm going to use the injection hose, turn my bottle upside down, and I'm just going to force antifreeze in. And you probably can't see it in the video, but I have a good flow coming out of the drain line down at the bottom, which I pointed out previously. So this is now filling the cylinder head and the cylinder block directly, and you are also going to fill or get some flow into the exhaust manifold, because the coolant flow as it comes in from the jet pump runs through the block, out the exhaust manifold, and out the water jacket of the exhaust pipe. Now, it's a little bit of an uphill run, but we have the bottle above that, and I would put a good quart or more in here, and that way you're probably going to get flow up into your water jacket for your exhaust. Later we're going to actually force antifreeze into that water jacket, and that is going to be by this hose here, which is the outlet from the water jacket to the air compressor, and we're going to just turn that around and put antifreeze directly into the water jacket of the exhaust pipe, and any excess is going to run back into the cylinder block in that direction. So we know we're going to get really good amount of antifreeze into the engine and the exhaust. So before we put the line back on the injection regulator, I'm going to attach this piece of tubing, the black line, and we're going to put antifreeze directly into the regulator, and you're going to hear it trickle into the water box, and there's always water trapped in there, so this is going to help keep that from freezing. Alright, it's going directly into the water box muffler, and I'm just going to use probably like a cup or so. I think that should be enough. Alright, so now while we're on the muffler, the line from that injection regulator in the back that we were, the small line that comes out of the injection regulator goes to the exhaust pipe, and that is the injection line right here, and it's a smaller line. It's black in this case, and when that injection regulator opens up, it feeds a supply of water directly into your exhaust. So we're going to take that off. We're going to put our piece of tubing on right there, and we're going to just flow some in there, because there's a low point that, you know, you're going to have water in the exhaust pipe. This tubing's a little bit too big, but It doesn't take much just to run some into the exhaust pipe. All right. Okay, now in the area of the exhaust pipe, we're going to disconnect this hose here. And this is one I already showed you that comes from the air compressor on the DI on the other side of the engine, and it connects here. And water that goes through the engine and through the exhaust jacket leaves here and goes to the air compressor. So what we're going to do is we're going to flush antifreeze in both directions. So into the hose is going to go directly to the head of the air compressor. And there is a line, that one of those clear lines that I told you about earlier in the bottom of the ski, I can see flow. That is the outlet from the compressor, and I'm getting antifreeze all the way through there. And you want to get it dribbling out of the back of the ski because that fills the air quieter in the back of the ski, which is plastic. It's a bulb, and I think that could crack if you freeze that up. So you definitely want to get antifreeze flowing out the back from that line. Now for the water jacket, we're going to connect our hose here, back flush it the other way, and like I said earlier, that's going to go back up, and now it's going to run down into the exhaust manifold, to the engine, back through the cylinder block, and that's all good. And we'll know we have had antifreeze going in both directions and pushing water out from that cylinder block drain that I told you about earlier. And you'll be able to see from one of those clear lines in the bottom of the ski, and I can hear it running out the back from that drain. So I've actually got water and antifreeze being pushed out of the water jacket and through the block and out the drain from the cylinder block. So that's a good thing. And we're almost done with that. Alright, so I've reconnected the hose from the water jacket. Like I said, that's one of these hoses that goes back to the air compressor down here. And its outlet is over here, and that goes to the air quieter. Now, the manual will tell you to do all this through this bleed hose right here. This is your high point, which goes to your cooling indicator, or your pisser line that we call it. So they're going to tell you just to put everything in here. The problem with that is you have parallel paths, and to guarantee the fluid is going through these branch lines, I like to do it the other way, where the water actually is designed to come into the engine. But I will, for good measure, go ahead and hook my hose up there and just put some in. But obviously it's basically going into the water jacket, and you'll be able to see it come out here if any makes it over to this. It's also going to go in the engine here, but we've already done that. So that's, suit yourself. Alright, so when I forced antifreeze in through the high point, I did get some flow out of the drain from the cylinder block, but if you just do that, you know, it's not going to make its way into the supply hose, and there's no way it's going to force its way up this loop into the mag cover and the crankcase water jackets, which I'm going to show you that next. And that's why I like to kind of focus on each individual branch and do it that way. Alright, so the line that feeds the mag and crankcase water jackets, like I said, it's one of the T's in the main supply. It's this one here. I've removed the clamp. We're going to remove that hose. This runs to the front of the ski and disappears right there in front of the muffler in this case, and goes to the mag cover and crankcase cover. And the outlet for that is this hose down here with that quick disconnect. and we're going to be able to see antifreeze coming out through there just by putting it in here, and we are going to know that we have complete coverage of that circuit. Alright, so there you can see we've only used not even half that gallon, and I know I've got those lines filled to the point where we have drained those various outlets out of the back of the ski, which means we've filled all the voids and then some. So you can do 2 skis with a gallon, and that's what I have here to do. So one other thing is you should, before you do this, run your engine and fog it. That's covered by the manual, and I'm not going to get into that here. All right, thanks.